Hey friend, I'm about to harvest the garden and I thought that I would give you a little tour because it's like warm enough for a t-shirt and bare feet today, but it's supposed to be a high of 30 tomorrow. So Bluebell the dog and I are out here and just scrambling to get everything harvested. Unfortunately, Bluebell doesn't have opposable thumbs, so she's not much help with the harvest. But let's go take a look at what's going on. Here's the overview, and as you can see, it's pretty chaotic, but that's pretty normal for fall in the garden, right? All right, so Bluebell's really enjoying the day. And here we have the spearmint that has definitely gone wild. And so I'm gonna harvest that and cut these tops off and then cut them down to the ground. Also in here is a little bit of strawberries, so I might harvest those leaves if I have time for tea. There's dandelion in here, which you might be like, why the hell are you growing dandelion in your garden bed? But it's so much easier to harvest the roots. I've always wanted to do this and it just volunteered in the garden, so yay! And then we have the skullcap seeds. The leaves are already gone, but if you can see those little seed pods, they're right in there. And so I'm gonna try and harvest some seed from these little bitty seed pods right here. And then when we move over to this other bed, there's a bunch of little tiny bee balm. I cut it back because it was getting downy mildew. You can see like there's still a little bit on there, but the ones that have come back are showing less downy mildew. I'm actually going to try and move it to the yard because I think with it growing in this little bed, it's too close together and there's not enough air circulation, so it's getting downy mildew, and that's no fun, and I don't want to eat that or make medicine from it. These asters volunteered in here, so maybe I can get some seed and grow them in the Yarden next year because they were quite beautiful. They're like this lavender color. So nice. Okay, and then this bed has like leftover spearmint that I had pulled out because there was so much in the other bed, but of course it popped back up again. And there is, I cut it back, but the bergamot's coming back and with downy mildew as well. So probably try and transfer that to the Yarden as well. I might be able to get some seeds from this anise hyssop right here. And this was Malabar spinach, which I tried this year. It didn't do a whole lot, but maybe, I'll have better luck next year. And then in the back of this bed, once I cut the bergamot back, the catnip has been really happy. And so I'm gonna harvest that catnip today for mostly for tea, maybe for some tincture as well. So nice and calming for the gut, the nervous system, pain, all of the things. And there's a little bit of spilanthes left in here, so if y'all can see these flower heads right here, they're quite lovely. And so there's one of the funny eyeball looking ones. So I'm going to try and harvest the last few that are left in this bed. And of course there's a lot of dandelion that volunteered in this bed. So I'm going to harvest those greens, cook them up, dry some, great for tea, diuretic, liver support. There's a horseradish kind of trying to make its way in here. I planted this, I think it was last year, and so I might check the root and see how that's doing down there. Here's some thyme under this aster outside the bed, but I'm gonna harvest this thyme today. It's so great for steams during the winter for respiratory health, so definitely want some of that. I did some of that recently because my daughter was sick, so worked out really well. Over here we have turmeric, and there's actually 4, I think, different colors of turmeric in this bed. So I'm looking at these big leaves right here, and you can tell the leaves are dying back, so time to dig those roots. My friend Yana gave them to me. She's an amazing gardener, so I'm excited to dig them up. All right, if you see those pink flags, those were to remind me where things were planted, and also because my partner got sick of me saying, don't cut those weeds, don't mow over them. So he lovingly gave me those flags. This was hibiscus. It has died back, but maybe I can still harvest some of the old fruit off of there. And these, I think, volunteered in here, but this is wineberry. I'm going to try and dig it out of there in the spring and move it probably to the edge of the woods because it's just taking over this bed right by the edge of the house. And I do harvest those leaves for as a tonic for the reproductive system for people who have wombs. It's good for that. And there's the sage hiding back behind there. It's gotten kind of overshadowed by the wineberry, but it grew tall to be able to reach the sun still. So I'll harvest that today. And this goldenrod just volunteered in this bed, and I'm hoping that it will take over more of the yard. It's so great for urinary tract health and allergies. So love that, but a little big for this bed right next to the house. Let's see who else we have over here. I don't know what happened to this marshmallow. I guess it's just dying back, but you probably can't even see that. A lot of strawberry leaf in there. This rose bush is kind of dying back. Poke just volunteered in this bed, so I'm probably going to take it out. Sorry, Poke. It's just not the best place for it. And, oh, this is exciting. My friends have a farm up the road called Appalachia, like Appalachian Asia. They're traditional Chinese medicine practitioners, and they grow green tea. So this green tea is super happy and needs to be harvested. And then right below it is California poppy. So that made a couple, not many, but a few beautiful orange flowers. And I love that because I used to live in California, so it's kind of special to me. Another rose bush here dying back. And oh, there's like, in the mess, in the chaos, there is a little bit of my lavender right there. I planted 4 plants, but this one is the one that survived, and I think it's getting a little too shaded out by the rose, so we'll address that next year. But there's a marshmallow here. I cut it way back, and it's starting to sprout new leaves, which look pretty happy. So I might harvest some of those. Really nice and mucilaginous for gut and respiratory health. You know how I love that word, mucilaginous, right? It means it gets slimy, which is so good for us. All right, moving on. Oh, look how beautiful the rue got. I'm not gonna harvest it, but if y'all do anything with it, let me know. I planted it here for protection. So it seems really happy there. Another rose bush, and the rosemary is trying to pop out. When we moved here a couple years ago, there was like all of these ornamentals in here, so they keep coming back. And it's a lot of grape hyacinth, which is really beautiful, but the leaves kind of take over, and so I'll probably cut those back more in the spring. And then cut back this marshmallow a bunch, and it hasn't really popped back up since. But you can see the Solomon seal is dying back, and I harvested some of the root this year. So maybe I'll harvest more of the root this fall for medicine. And I made like a fabulous glycerite with it that tastes freaking incredible. All right, who else do we have? A lot of violet leaf. I don't know. There it is. Violet leaf has just volunteered everywhere, which to me is saying like 1, I personally need it, and 2, probably a lot of people will need it this winter. So I'm paying attention to that and trying to harvest as much as I can. Oh, the rosemary. There's another one hiding back here. That's exciting. And this hibiscus also dying back I just got this elderberry from my friends at Winding Stair Farm, where I taught an elderberry syrup making class. So that's exciting. I'll probably leave it in this pot till the spring and then put it in the ground. But you can see the little, see if we can see the little warty bark there. Doesn't want to focus, but yeah, there's the elderberry. And coming over here to this bed, there's some leftover Tulsi right there. It was pretty happy this year, especially once I started harvesting it. There's this one that's dying back, which is a different Tulsi variety, and I put that in pretty late, so it didn't do much, but hopefully next year it will be pretty psyched. And then you can see starting to come up right there is wintercress, or hairy bittercress. It's a mustard, and it's a winter lovely wild edible, cold weather wild edible if it stays warm enough where you are during the winter. This is super cool. This is the seeds of violet that pop up, like these seed pods pop up after the violet blooms. So in the fall, because usually the violets bloom in the spring, but if you saw the post I just made the other day, talked about, I'm not sure how you pronounce it, but remontancy, something like that, which just means that plants bloom a couple of times. And so yeah, this one, I think it's called Cleistogamous. I might not be pronouncing that or spelling it right in my head, but that just means like this reproductive structure that comes up separately from the flower. It's pretty cool how violets do that. And but that part is not edible as far as I've always heard. So moving on, of course there's just like a ton of white clover in the grass and violet all over, which is super exciting. Like under this lovely dogwood tree, there's a bunch of violet. I've harvested a lot of it, but need to harvest more if it doesn't freeze and I have time. And then we come over to this bed on the side of the house, and there's lemon balm, which I cut back pretty hard recently, but whatever's left I'm gonna try and get today. As you notice, there's a lot I'm trying to do today, so it may not happen. But the nettle, the stinging nettle, is super happy, and so I definitely need to harvest that today so it doesn't freeze. And coming over here, we have, these are the stalks that are dying back of the sochan, which is the Cherokee word for this plant. And it's also called green-headed coneflower, or cutleaf coneflower. Rudbeckia laciniata is the species. And I'm gonna cut some of these leaves to cook up. They're a very popular traditional green with the Cherokee. And I'm trying to see if there's anything else. I tried to plant some calendula back here, but it didn't really take. If we come over here, this is just a wild bed that I planted some tree seedlings in, but a lot of violet in here that I want to try to harvest. You can see though, it's gotten kind of like bug eaten and just getting kind of like fibrous. But here, pretty exciting, there's a bunch of St. John's wort that has gone to seed. So I would love to harvest those seeds. All right, y'all. I think that's it for today. Wish me luck in getting it all harvested before it freezes tonight. Or, you know, as much as possible. Like, let's give ourselves a lot of grace, because there's this poem I love from this book called The Painted Drum by Louise Erdrich, and she talks about sitting under the apple trees, and the apples have fallen and are on the ground all around you, and they smell sweet as they're decaying, and you just know that you can't harvest them all, and being in that place. And so I always think about that when I'm like, how am I gonna harvest everything? So we do our best, right? And give thanks for all that the plants have given us, and give thanks that hopefully we'll be here another year, and so will the plants. All right, tell me what you're harvesting from your garden. Happy harvesting.